we talked a little bit about that. We talked about the 2.5-year testing with the pressure testing and that sort of thing. But as far as internal inspections, actually taking the top off and sticking your head in there, is that what you're going to do? Or?
Ask Patrick that one.
Well, he's going to have to take the top off and take a look on the inside. Right. And make sure that the container is okay. And then all this stuff, he's going to want to keep records on it. And when he does keep records, that of course gets all the way back to question number 1, where you really want to have the inspection number for the container.
Right, and that's how he can prove that he's done the testing for each individual container.
Okay, we're here with Patrick Nellenbach from Crop Protection Services up in Michigan, and he is going to show us how to pressure test one of these tanks. As Nancy and I talked about, this is something you got to do every 2.5 years. So what do you got going on here, Patrick?
Well, we've got our standard tank here, and what we do is we have just a standard air compressor. That's a 20-gallon air compressor. We have it turned down so that we can't create too much air pressure through the hose into a pressure testing device that has a preset valve on it.
Oh, one of those pop valves. So in other words, if the pressure gets too high, the pop valve is going to relieve the pressure?
Correct. So this is a safety function so that if the pressure gets too high while we're pumping it up, the valve will actually pop.
Right, and that's a safety thing so that something's not going to fly off, things not going to blow up and kill somebody. Right.
In addition, we turn down the ability for the compressor to push too much air in at one time. So that's going to pump it a little slower.
Oh, we've got a control valve over here.
Correct. So we open our valve up.
Okay, and he's got an Allen wrench that he's opening the...
We open our valve up and we pressurize the tank. The requirement is at 3 pounds.
Okay, so it goes... So we've got a gauge here, and we're going to watch for that gauge to go up to 3 pounds.
So when it gets to about 3 pounds...
Then we're just going to shut off the air compressor?
Correct. We'll actually shut off
this ball valve here?
The ball valve here.
Okay.
Shut the valve off, and when we hit a standard pressure, anything greater than 3 pounds, 5 to 6 pounds will start to bow out this tank. It doesn't seem like it will, but it will.
Oh, so we'll see the thing balloon, huh?
You will be able to recognize it. It will be indicated.
Okay.
So then what we do is, prior to pressurizing it, obviously we tighten down anywhere that air could escape.
Okay, so I've got it up to 3 pounds, and if I hear some hissing someplace, I might come back and try and torque down some of these.
Maybe just an issue of needing to tighten down a cap.
Okay.
Tighten down a fence, something like that.
All right, Nancy and I talked about that. This is something we want to get from the container manufacturer, so we know how to tighten it, how to make sure these fittings are correct. All right.
Correct. So once we've ensured that all the openings are tight, airtight, that is when we go around. We just take a simple bottle of soapy water, spray it around to ensure that that's the case.
All right. All right, so we're listening for hissing, and now with the soapy water on there, we're looking to see if any bubbles come up, right?
That is correct, yeah. So we're looking to see bubbles on any of these. And what we typically do is we try to keep to a uniform time that we're going to maintain the pressure at.
So we might bring it up to 3 to 5 pounds per square inch and then let it sit there for 3 to 5 minutes?
Yeah, what we typically do is we try to stay uniform and go each tank 5 minutes. So at the end of the 5-minute process, as we're walking around, if we see any spider webbing, any cracking indicating by the fact that we have pressure conditions, we'll check to see if we can't visually recognize anything.
Right.
And at the end of the 5 minutes, if we've maintained our pressure, we've done our leak test, we've done our pressure test, we then slap a decal on the outside of it, which expresses that we've done our visual exterior, interior pressure test and leak test.
Okay, so we pressurize the whole thing. We're looking, you talked about the spider webs. By that I think you mean the crack in the plastic?
Cracking, yeah.
Right.
Patterns of cracking.
Right, so because we talked about that, it could actually balloon out a little bit, and there you would actually see that the plastic may have some fatigue.
Correct. It typically will tell the staff to look at normal problematic spots.
Right.
If there's any issues here along maybe where the molds come in and where there's
Sure, where the
creases.
plastic's welded here?
Certainly.
Yeah, or any of the corners, that could be an issue too.
Correct.
And I know that sometimes that we've had notes of failures where these valves come in because people will put hoses on there and they'll torque that a little bit.
Absolutely.
So that's probably a spot where you may see some leaks too.
Correct. And you know, this tank here exhibits a little bit of discoloration too. We'll walk around and determine, you know, to what degree that is. If it's created by a label or it's created by the actual tank
Ultraviolet.
discoloration.
So UV will break down this plastic over time, right?
That's correct. And then we have to identify the tank with an inspection date.
Okay, so this is all part of our record keeping and that sort of thing.
That's
huh?
correct. Yep. And that goes on the exterior of the tank.
Well, yeah, actually Nancy and I talked about that when we were talking about the UN markings. We wanted to make sure that we saw that pressure testing on there. It was done every 2.5 years.
Correct.
And that's going to be something that's put on the outside of the tank. And then with the tank identifier, you're going to have that record keeping in your files, which will be available for an inspector or something else like that.
Correct. So we should be able to point to a tank, specifically state on the tank when it was last inspected, as it does down here.
Okay.
So this tank certainly in need of an inspection, or at least identification that it has been inspected.
Right. That's because of the date on there.
Correct.
Okay, good. Well, thank you, Patrick. That was great, buddy.
You're welcome.
All right.
My pleasure.
I'm seeing a reoccurring theme here. I'm seeing that there's a dual responsibility with both the registrant and the refiller. I mean, that's pretty much true.
Yes, that's very true. Both the registrant and refiller are responsible for the product, the integrity of the product in the container, and also both have different responsibilities with the container.
Sure. And some of the differences in responsibilities would be the registrant has to provide a lot of documentation and paperwork for the dealer, and the dealer has to have that available when he refills the container.
That's right.
Okay, good. But we hope that we provided the dealers and the refillers a way where they can go ahead and use this checklist, inspect their containers, make sure they're in compliance, and ideally get it done this winter. 2009, I think before 2010 gets here, while your containers are empty, get them out, take a look at them, decide which containers you can go ahead and use come 2011. If you have a container that's not suitable, talk to the container manufacturer, okay? A lot of the manufacturers are looking at the rules. They're coming up with check valves and that sort of thing that y'all can use to retrofit the container, make it suitable for refilling in 2011.